I don't think Trump's been nearly heavy-handed enough.
Yeah, I agree.
No, I mean, he's had more than sufficient grounds to invoke the Insurrection Act for months.
But he's Buchanan. I think Donald Trump is proving himself to be a Buchanan and not a Lincoln. Lincoln put the boot down right when he got in office. There was no waiting. He was arresting politicians.
He suspended habeas corpus without the permission of Congress,
Yep.
which is supposed to be he got permission after the fact.
2 years later.
Right.
So he just did it.
Do you think, though, Tim, that Trump doesn't want to invoke the Insurrection Act because he's worried that if he does, the optics start to really look bad for 2020 for J.D.
Sure,
Vance?
just like
I feel
Buchanan.
like he's so worried about leaving J.D. Vance in a good standing that he's. That's why Holman is
There's a political
changing the
cost, for
optics.
sure.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Just like Buchanan. Placate the other side, try and tone the temperature down, and be nice to the people who are losing their effing minds.
Yeah.
And so Trump is playing footsie. I said he either needs to stand down or suit up, because this half measure they're pulling off in Minnesota it's generating the agitprop that the left needs.
Yeah.
Wearing these stupid fake things. I'm a peaceful observer. Then they lob a brick at your face. And then when you actually, so what did we see? We saw this exact scenario play out at the Home 2 Suites, where a leftist journalist chucked a brick at a Fed's face from the Bureau of Prisons, presumably breaking his nose. He's covered in blood. So he pulls out his less lethal and he walks out and points it. And the only video they show is the agent pointing a weapon at journalists.
Right.
Trump half measures are giving them all the recruiting tools they need so they can bring more retards into the fray. So I said, stand down, do nothing, let Minnesota burn. You got to stand down or suit up. And suit up means Insurrection Act, shut it down, no more bricks, no more protests, nothing happens. My proposal is this. Actually, the smartest thing Trump can do, visit Minneapolis. That's it. Trump should announce, I am deeply saddened by the conflict that we're seeing in the streets of Minneapolis. The American people don't want this. The American people want peace. They want order. They want a good economy. They want stability. I am going to personally go to Minneapolis to meet with the mayor and the governor to find a solution so that we can find real accountability and stop the violence. What happens when he does that? Secret Service, National Guard, federal police come in and they shut the city down. Checkpoints are everywhere, and he doesn't need to assert anything. He doesn't need to say, I'm going to crush you leftists. He doesn't need to call in the National Guard or invoke the Insurrection Act. It will just naturally play out. This will stop all protests and riots just by him being there. It will take away any opportunity for agitprop because Trump is not crushing the protests. He's not shutting them down. He's literally just visiting to bring peace. That's the play. He won't do it. He's miserable at it. Bovino and Noem saying that Preddy was going to massacre law enforcement and Miller was miserably bad PR.
I agree.
They screwed the whole thing up, and they're continuing to screw it up. And you know what? I will give them this. Who am I? What the F do I know? I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm just some dude on the internet complaining. Maybe I'm wrong about everything. But I can say this, they are losing it. Maybe I'm wrong about what they should do, but they are losing.
I think we got a call.
All right, let's get it.
Yeah.
All right, 1 second. Please have a call going. See, the problem is some the other ones I'm in don't have calls going because I scared the crap out of them yesterday by posting their links on Twitter. So they're like, but what we could do is just call them as well.
Do they know your number? But then you got to talk to them or what?
Yeah, if they join. We'll see.
I think you're better off trying to join someone else's call so we can hear what they naturally are doing. And if you can't, we don't want to.
That's the problem.
Don't want to spook them, you know?
Yeah, that's the problem. Is they're like I said, they're so scared because I've been posting I've evolved from posting screenshots to just straight up posting their links. So then they get invaded with people spamming Trump gifs in their chats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing about the Insurrection Act that we think it sounds extreme, and it would be portrayed as extreme if he were to invoke it, because they haven't properly laid the groundwork for the public to be accepting of its invocation. But the only thing weird about the Insurrection Act in 2026 is we're in the longest period of American history right now where it has not been invoked. It's been invoked dozens of times by dozens of presidents over America's history. It's unusual that we've gone since 1992 without invoking it. It's almost overdue.
But if there was a time,
just do it just because.
But if there was a time that the President Trump was going to invoke the Insurrection Act, it should have been during the Black Lives Matter riots, because that was absolute chaos in several cities for months on months, and the president never stepped in. He never stepped in Portland or any of those kind of major cities where we saw that violence. In Seattle, it took someone dying for like the local law enforcement to come in and like, break down Chaz. But if there was going to be any time, it should have been in 2020. I just think that right now, Trump is worried about political numbers. He knows Kristi Noem, her messaging just has been all over the place with Stephen Miller, and I just think the optics of him doing it, I just think he's thinking too much about 2028. But just from being on the ground, it just seems like he should have done it in 2020, and I just don't see any scenario where President Trump's going to do it now.
He was a different president too, though, right?
That's
I mean, that first term President Trump and this term President Trump,
I would say
feel to me like two different guys.
If anything, with this White House, he probably has more backing with Stephen Miller and J.D. Vance to invoke it, and I still don't think he'll do it.
I'll throw it back to Lincoln Buchanan again. And the diehard Trump people, he can never do anything wrong, and it's just so cringe because if you believe that Trump is invincible and never fails, you're going to lose. You're just going to lose
Yeah.
if you can't recognize where you're getting crushed. And as you mentioned, the left is celebrating what's going on in Minnesota. Tom Homan even said, "I'm not here because things have been going well." He's outright saying they sent me in to try and clean this up, and he's trying to turn the temperature down.
I do think there's kind of a play here, though. J.D. Vance said it in his speech when he visited Minnesota that the reason there are so many federal agents in Minnesota is because the regular operating teams who are going out and detaining illegal immigrants can't operate because they're being impeded every time they leave. That's what these signal chats are for.
Yep.
They find the agents. They have dozens of people in each sector at any given time, each part of the city, that are just hunting these agents down. Now MPD and state police are actually doing their job. So when he's talking about drawing forces out of Minnesota, I think this might be a play by the administration to make them feel like they're getting a win, when in reality, it's going to be easier for them to carry out operations. But I agree. At the very least, Trump should have used 10 U.S.C. 12407 and deployed the National Guard. I support the Insurrection Act, but
Yes.
like at the very least, 10 U.S. Code 12406, deploy the National Guard.
Immediately. This is what you're describing is what Trump did in 2020 with the George Floyd riots. Let the cities burn, and then what happens is the people who are concerned about the violence are saying Trump can't do anything. So why support him? Your Republican politicians aren't going to help you. Trump's not going to put down the riots, so why vote for Trump? And a lot of people probably thought, well, this is happening under Trump. Why would I continue to vote for this? I want change. And we're not going to sit here and pretend the average normie voter knows exactly what's going on. The typical swing at the macro level is just, if it's bad, I want the other party.
Yeah.
They're not sitting there going, well, will Joe Biden actually do it or is Trump? They're just thinking, well, the Republicans aren't doing it. Maybe the Democrats will.
But even if they won't vote for the other party, they just won't show up. And that's the problem. You win elections when your team shows up. If your team is just disheartened, they're not even seeing incremental wins, they're not seeing a future that looks more positive, they just stay home.
Yeah, I think Trump is too focused on the 2020 election stuff. You know, I like it. I like what he's doing with Fulton County and all that. But the play they're making right now, I think, has the right's fairly split. Libertarians are largely anti-Trump on this one, and they're siding with liberals. Then you've got the disaffected liberal types, people like in my camp, that are just saying Trump's too weak and he's not doing anything. And then you've got the diehard Trump can do no wrong people that are just saying Trump's right about everything no matter what. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
guys.
right now, Tim, you got the normies taking in just all the negative headlines from Minneapolis. I mean, I would say right now, politically, it's a disaster for Republicans heading into these midterms.
Because they only just do half measures. Because they don't, I'll play it like this, because I've talked about this before. The right and conservatives don't have the capacity to win against evil because, let me rephrase this. It is substantially more difficult to defeat evil using good than it is to be evil. And the right, and to their credit, it's not meant to be disrespectful, is unwilling to use tactics that win wars in the way that the Democrats, the Uniparty, and the liberal economic order have historically done. That is, the right won't ever put on "don't shoot, peaceful observer" with the and walk around wearing these things, creating the implication that ICE is murdering random people. The intention is to create a narrative in the minds of people who don't know what's going on. So when they see a group of people with their hands up wearing these vests and they go, "What's that all about?" A leftist will say, "Didn't you know? Trump's killing peaceful protesters. That's why they have to wear the don't shoot.
And this is always going to be on the front page of New York Times.
Yep.
You know, this, hands up, don't shoot. The
They're
optics,
right.
Yeah.
The example I always give, May 29th, 2020, thousands of leftists tear the barricades down at the White House, injure 100 plus federal agents, firebomb the White House grounds and St. John's Church, and Trump played it straight. Barr and Trump send the police in, shut the riot down. The narrative that emerged, Trump brutalizes peaceful protesters after being terrified and hiding in his bunker. What would have happened, honest question, what would have happened if Trump said stand down?
They would have burned down the White House. Actually, Tim, I was there that night, and they had to put Trump under a bunker.
They did.
Under the White House.
They would have burned the White House down?
Yep.
What then would the narrative be the next day?
Leftists burn the White House.
Republicans are weak.
Weak.
Weak
Le-
Trump.
le- the
weak
leftists have burned, by all means. And you know what Trump then says? You're right. I'm sorry. I was weak. These leftist terrorists are much stronger than any of us realized. I was reading the New York Times, and don't get me wrong, I don't think Trump has the wherewithal for a narrative like this. But what I would do is I'd come out and say, I apologize to the American people. I read the New York Times every day. I read the Washington Post and I watched MSNBC as they told me that this was mostly peaceful. And so when these people showed up at the White House out of a concern for a potential injury or great bodily harm to peaceful protesters, I instructed our law enforcement to stand down, and I was wrong. The threat of leftist terrorism exceeded what even the New York Times or I could have fathomed. And for this, we have lost St. John's Church and the White House. But mark my words, I will not be weak ever again. We are forming a task force with the Capitol Police to hunt down these terrorists and bring them to justice. Congress would have no choice but to unanimously fund the operations where Trump wipes out all of the far left.
Tim wants the remaining Jedi will
Sounds
be
like a good movie.
The attempt on Trump comes out with his face burned from the fire, saying the attempt on my life has left me scarred and disfigured.
He'll be dressed like Bruce Willis in Die Hard.
I'm not giving you an opinion on what could have been. You're saying, Tim, but how do you know any of that would happen? Because what I'm saying, I am literally describing to January 6th. Trump asked for the National Guard, and the Democrats went no. Nancy Pelosi said no. And their Capitol Police on video standing outside, standing down. There are Metro PD giving guided tours to people, helping them get in the building, opening doors even, and one man saying, I don't agree with it, but I respect it, taking selfies with people. So as far as these J6ers knew, not the rioters, by all means, the ones who fought cops, we know they go to jail. You fight cops, you go to jail. That's wrong. On this side of the building, when the cops were holding the doors open, taking pictures, and when the shaman got a guided escort into the Senate chambers, how did these people think they were doing anything wrong? When they walked in an open door, stayed between the velvet ropes, and the police said, right this way, sir. And what did they do? They formed a task force. They formed a committee. They put people in prison. They hunted them down for years. They gave some people 20 years in prison for this. Trump and the Republicans play everything honestly. There's violent rioters. Let's arrest them. The left says, no, do nothing. Let the rioters have their way. That way we can go and blame Trump for it and arrest him. Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. So subscribe and come hang out.